Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Understanding Business 2024. Chapter 7. Narrated by Omar Mohsen Ibrahim Fouad. Part 3. Business Management. Empowering Employees to Satisfy Customers. Chapter 7. Management and Leadership. Page 172. Learning Objectives. After you have read and studied this chapter, you should be able to LO 7-1 describe the changes occurring today in the management function. LO 7-2 describe the four functions of management. LO 7-3 relate the planning process and decision making to the accomplishment of company goals. LO 7-4 describe the organizing function of management. LO 7-5 explain the differences between leaders and managers and describe the various leadership styles. LO 7-6 summarize the 5 steps of the control function of management. Page 173. Getting to know Angela F. Williams, CEO of United Way Worldwide. In the early 20th century, cities and towns across the United States would raise charitable funds for community chest organizations that then distributed money to good causes. Eventually, many of these separate and scattered efforts joined forces to form united funds, which sought to accomplish more together. These organizations consolidated even further into United Way, which is now an international network of more than 1,800 nonprofits supporting communities around the world. Although each local branch operates independently in order to respond to the specific needs of its community, United Way requires a capable leader at the center to manage the many complicated elements of this global spanning organization. Since 2021, that person has been Angela F. Williams, who brings more than 30 years of nonprofit and corporate leadership experience to her role as Chief Executive Officer, CEO of United Way Worldwide. Around the world, issues of health, education, and economic sustainability are at the forefront of ensuring equality and access to a good quality life, said Williams. I recognize and appreciate the tremendous role that United Way Worldwide plays in supporting individuals and families and transforming communities. Born and raised in Anderson, South Carolina, Williams's military family taught her about the importance of service from an early age. She also showed great dedication to her studies both as a young person and as an adult, going on to earn a bachelor's degree in American government from the University of Virginia and her law degree from the University of Texas School of Law. Following her graduation from law school, Williams followed her drive to serve by signing up for 6 years of active duty in the U.S. Air Force, Judge Advocate General Corps JAG, at a time when few black women joined the elite legal team. And on top of all these impressive credentials, Williams also obtained a master's degree in divinity from Virginia Union University. This extensive education and service experience provided the ideal foundation for Williams as she started her law career. Her roles in government included serving as a special counsel on criminal law for the Senate Judiciary Committee and as a prosecutor for the DOJ Civil Rights Division's National Church Arson Task Force. After working as an assistant U.S. attorney, Williams left the public sector and entered the corporate world, where she took a job as vice president and deputy general counsel for Sears. She soon rose to the position of chief compliance and ethics officer. Although service remained Williams's central concern even as she climbed up the corporate ladder, in 2006, she served as the interfaith liaison for the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund, a nonprofit formed to provide critical aid for victims of Hurricane Katrina. This role inspired her to leave the corporate world behind and join YMCA of the USA as General Counsel and Chief Administration Officer. The combination of the leadership and service that Williams found at the youth organization suited her perfectly and set the stage for her rise to the top of the management hierarchy. The combination of leadership and service that Williams found at the youth organization suited her perfectly and set the stage for her rise to the top of the management hierarchy. After 11 years at YMCA, Williams became president and CEO of Easter Seals, the largest healthcare nonprofit in the United States, serving more than 1.5 million Americans living with disabilities. Her exemplary work with Easter Seals earned her a spot on Forbes magazine's 2021 list of 50 women over 50 creating social change at scale. All of her accomplishments eventually attracted the attention of United Way Worldwide, whereas CEO Williams works every day to mobilize and manage the organization's network of thousands of employees and volunteers in order to help disadvantaged communities across the globe. She's the first woman to serve as president and CEO of United Way Worldwide. This chapter is all about leadership and management. You will learn about the skills that leaders like Angela F. Williams need in order to manage complicated organizations. You will also learn about the basic functions of management and how management differs from leadership. All in all, you should get a better idea of what leaders and managers do and how they do it. Sources: Alexa Imani Spencer, Angela F. Williams, appointed United Way Worldwide's first woman and African American president, CEO, Black Enterprise, September 13th, 2021. United Way Worldwide, unitedway.org. Accessed March 2023. Easter Seals, easterseals.com. Accessed March 2023. Angela F. Williams, A Lifetime of Purpose and Service. Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, mcaad.org, February 16, 2023. Alyssa Shuker, Reddix, page 174. Name that company. When this company was in the middle of a major crisis, it appointed a new CEO who promised a commitment to transparency at the company to win back the confidence of customers, employees, and the government. The company's comeback has been slow, but considerable progress has been made. Name that company. Find the answer in the chapter. Managers' roles are evolving. LO7-1. Describe the changes occurring today in the management function. Managers must practice the art of getting things done through organizational resources, which include workers, financial resources, information, and equipment. At one time, managers were called bosses, and their job consisted primarily of telling people what to do, watching over them to be sure they did it, and reprimanding those who didn't. Some managers still behave that way. Perhaps you've witnessed or experienced such behavior. Some coaches use this style. Today, however, most managers tend to be more collaborative. For example, they emphasize teams and team building. They create drop-in centers, team spaces, and open work areas. They may change the definition of work from a task you do for a specified period in a specific place to something you do anywhere, anytime. This includes your home. They tend to guide, train, support, motivate, and teach employees rather than tell them what to do. Thus, most modern managers emphasize teamwork and cooperation rather than discipline and order giving. They may even open the firm's books to employees to share the company's financials. Managers of high-tech firms like Google and Apple realize that many workers often know more about technology and their jobs than they do. Google even attempted at one time to get by with no managers. Soon, however, it found that managers were necessary for communicating strategy, helping employees prioritize projects, facilitating cooperation, and ensuring that processes and systems aligned with company goals. Patrick Fallon, Zuma Press Incorporated, Alamy, stock photo. Rather than telling employees exactly what to do, managers today tend to give their employees enough independence to make their own informed decisions about how best to please customers. How do you think most employees respond to this employment? How do you think most employees respond to this empowerment on the job? What these changes mean for you is that management demands a new kind of person, a skilled communicator and team player, as well as a planner, organizer, motivator, and leader. Future managers will also need to be more globally prepared. That is, they need skills such as adaptability, foreign language, fluency, and ease in other cultures. We'll address all these trends in the next few chapters to help you decide whether management is a career you would like to pursue. In the following sections, we shall discuss management in general and the key functions managers perform. Page 175. The four functions of management. LO 7-2. Describe the four functions of management. The following definition of management provides the outline of this chapter. Management is the process used to accomplish organizational goals through planning, organizing, leading, and controlling people and other organizational resources. See Figure 7.1. Figure 7.1. What managers do. Some modern managers perform all of these tasks with the full cooperation and participation of workers. Empowering employees means allowing them to participate more fully in decision making. Planning, setting organizational goals, developing strategies to reach those goals, determining resources needed, setting precise standards. Organizing, allocating resources, assigning tasks, and establishing procedures for accomplishing goals. Preparing a structure, organization chart, showing lines of authority and responsibility, recruiting, selecting, training, and developing employees, placing employees where they'll be most effective, leading, guiding and motivating employees to work effectively to accomplish organizational goals and objectives, giving assignments, explaining routines, clarifying policies, providing feedback on performance, controlling, measuring results against corporate objectives, monitoring performance relative to standards, rewarding outstanding performance, taking corrective action when necessary. Planning includes anticipating trends and determining the best strategies and tactics to achieve organizational goals and objectives. One of the major objectives of organizations is to please customers. The trend today is to have planning teams to help monitor the environment, find business opportunities, and watch for challenges. Planning is a key management function because accomplishing the other functions depends heavily on having a good plan. Organizing includes designing the structure of the organization and creating conditions and systems in which everyone and everything work together to achieve the organization's goals and objectives. Many of today's organizations are being designed around pleasing the customer at a profit. Thus, they must remain flexible and adaptable because when customer needs and markets change, firms must change with them. For example, iconic 135-year-old healthcare company Johnson & Johnson made the decision to divide its organization into two separate companies, a consumer products company and a prescription drug and medical devices company. Johnson & Johnson decided on the brand name Kenvue for the new consumer products company. It will be the home of classic household brand names such as Tylenol, Band-Aid, Listerine, and Neutrogena. Johnson & Johnson will continue to be the brand name of the company's pharmaceuticals and medical devices business. Corporate conglomerates General Electric and Toshiba are major companies that have also reorganized their organizational structure to meet changing market demands. Page 176. Robin Rain, Zuma Press Incorporated, Alamy stock photo. Planning is what helps managers understand the environment in which their businesses must operate. When the COVID-19 pandemic forced restaurants to practice social distancing, food service managers needed to be ready to respond with operational alternatives. What restaurant changes occurred in your area? McGraw-Hill Connect. I see it. Need help understanding the 4 functions of the management? Click on the video for a brief animated explanation.
Four management functions. Frank owns Slice of Life Pizza, the most popular pizza joint in the neighborhood. Frank has big plans to expand the business, so he's hiring Justin as a manager. It's Justin's first day on the job, and Frank is giving him a tour while he's explaining the 4 functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. They start at the main counter, where customers are lined up for the lunchtime rush. Slice of Life is busiest during the day when people who work in the neighborhood visit for a quick bite. In the evening, Slice of Life gets plenty of delivery orders, but few people come into the restaurant. Frank wants to generate more business in the evening, and he has a plan. This is the first function of management: setting long-term goals and figuring out how to achieve them. Frank walks Justin through the restaurant's new addition, where he's planning to create a sit-down dining area with a hip atmosphere to attract evening customers. Instead of individual slices, they'll be serving whole pies in the evening, along with salads and beer. Next, Frank and Justin go to the workspace behind the counter, where the pizzas are made. They'll need to organize this area differently for the evening dinner service, rearranging the tasks, how the employees perform each task, and the way the space is utilized. For example, they're creating a dedicated salad station. They're also organizing a night shift and training key employees to wait tables. Leadership will be the key to the success of their plan. As Frank shares his vision, Justin is ready to engage with employees and get them motivated. As managers, Frank and Justin will work together to guide workers as they adapt to their new roles and responsibilities. Frank and Justin will also be responsible for controlling operations. They'll set standards, measure performance, and take corrective action when necessary. The 4 functions of management can surely help make Slice of Life as popular at night as it is during the day.
Leading means creating a vision for the organization and communicating, guiding, training, coaching, and motivating others to achieve goals and objectives in a timely manner. The trend is to empower employees, giving them as much freedom as possible to become self-directed and self-motivated. This function was known as directing, that is, telling employees exactly what to do. In many smaller firms, that may still be the manager's role. In most large firms, however, managers no longer tell people exactly what to do because knowledge workers and others often know how to do their jobs better than the manager does. Nonetheless, leadership is still necessary to keep employees focused on the right tasks at the right time. Controlling establishes clear standards to determine whether an organization is progressing toward its goals and objectives. Rewarding people for doing a good job and taking corrective action if they are not. Basically, it means measuring whether what actually occurs meets the organization's goals. Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling are the heart of management. So let's explore them in more detail. The process begins with planning. We'll look at that right after the test prep questions. Test prep. What are some of the changes happening in management today? What definition of management is used in this chapter? What are the 4 functions of management? Planning and decision making. LO 7-3. Relate the planning process and decision making to the accomplishment of company goals. Planning, the first managerial function, is setting the organization's vision, goals, and objectives. Executives find planning to be their most valuable tool. A vision is more than a goal. It's a broad explanation of why the organization exists and where it's trying to go. It gives the organization a sense of purpose and a set of values that unite workers and a common destiny. Managing an organization without first establishing a vision is like getting everyone in a rowboat excited about going somewhere, but not telling them exactly where. The boat will just keep changing directions rather than speeding toward an agreed on goal. Page 177. Top management usually sets the vision for the organization and then often works with others in the firm to establish a mission statement. A mission statement outlines the organization's fundamental purposes. It should address the following: the organization's self-concept, its philosophy, its long-term survival needs, its customer needs, its social responsibility, the nature of its products or services. The mission statement becomes the foundation for setting specific goals and objectives. Goals are the broad, long-term accomplishments an organization wishes to attain, because workers and management need to agree on them. Setting goals is often a team process. Objectives are specific, short-term statements detailing how to achieve the organization's goals. One of your goals for reading this chapter, for example, may be to learn basic concepts of management. An objective you could use to achieve this goal is to answer the chapter's test prep questions and end of chapter exercises. Planning is a continuous process. A plan that worked yesterday may not be successful in today's market. Most planning also follows a pattern. The procedure you'll follow in planning your life and career is basically the same as the one businesses use. It answers several fundamental questions. 1. What is the situation now? What are the success factors affecting the industry, participants, and how we do compare? What are the success factors affecting the industry participants, and how do we compare? What is the state of the economy and other environments? What opportunities exist for meeting people's needs? What products and customers are most profitable? Who are our major competitors? What threats are there to our business? These questions are part of SWOT analysis, which analyzes the organization's strengths and weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats it faces, usually in that order. Opportunities and threats are often external to the firm and cannot always be anticipated or controlled. The COVID-19 pandemic is an example of an external threat companies could not control. Weaknesses and strengths are more often internal and therefore more within reach of being measured and fixed. Figure 7.2 lists some of the general issues companies consider when conducting a SWOT analysis. What external success factors affect the industry? How does our firm measure up to other firms? What are our social objectives? What are our personal development objectives? What can we do to survive and prosper during a recession? For more on SWOT analysis, see the Putting Principles to Work exercise at the end of this chapter. How can we get to our goal from here? Answering this question is often the most important part of planning. It takes 4 forms: strategic, tactical, operational, and contingency. See Figure 7.3. Figure 7.2 SWOT Matrix. This matrix identifies potential strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats organizations may consider in a SWOT analysis. Potential internal strengths, core competencies in key areas, unacknowledged market leader, well-conceived functional area strategies, proven management, cost advantages, better advertising campaigns. Potential internal weaknesses, no clear strategic direction, obsolete facilities, subpar profitability, lack of managerial depth and talent, weak market image, too narrow a product line. Potential external opportunities, ability to serve additional customer groups, ability to expand product lines, ability to transfer skills and technology to new products, falling trade barriers in attractive foreign markets, complacency among rival firms, ability to grow due to increases in market demand, potential external threats, entry of lower-cost foreign competitors, rising sales of substitute products, slower market growth, costly regulatory requirements, vulnerability to recession and business cycles, changing buyer needs and tastes. Figure 7.3. Figure 7.3. Planning functions. Not all firms bother to make contingency plans. If something changes the market, such companies may be slow to respond. Most organizations do strategic, tactical, and operational planning. Forms of planning. Strategic planning. The setting of broad, long-range goals by top managers. Tactical planning. The identification of specific short-range objectives by lower-level managers. Operational planning. The setting of work standards and schedules. Contingency planning. The creation of backup plans in case primary plans fail. McGraw-Hill Connect. I see it. Need help understanding SWOT analysis? Click on the video for a brief animated explanation.
Arjun and Annika own a clothing store in a growing city. This store is thriving and it has a strong customer base. The store is known for engaging customers through personalized service, helping each one find the perfect outfit. Even though they are beloved by the community, several competitors have opened in the neighborhood. Annika and Arjun are worried the immersion of more competitors will decrease their customer base. Arjun and Annika call a team meeting to discuss the rise of competition. They decide to create a SWOT analysis, as it assesses the competitive position for strategic planning. A SWOT analysis is a description of a company's internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats. Arjun and Annika hope that the SWOT analysis will provide them with insights to help their business. They start with the internal strengths and weaknesses to see how they can differentiate themselves from their competitors. The team mentions that their internal strength is their outstanding, personalized customer service. They discuss developing a marketing strategy that capitalizes on their unique ability to help customers find the perfect outfit. The team realizes their physical location and lack of an online storefront limits their exposure to reaching more customers. As a result, the team considers developing an e-commerce site so customers can buy clothes from the store online to mitigate this internal weakness. Now the team analyzes their external environment to identify opportunities and threats. Arjun recently read a report that said there is an emerging trend around handmade accessories, such as bracelets, necklaces, and earrings. The store currently does not sell these items, so he suggests they partner with some local designers to develop a specialized line that they can sell exclusively. This is an external opportunity to expand their offering to the growing market. Annika states that they are facing two external threats to their business. One is the rise of competitors in the area, and the other is a rise in shipping costs for inventory due to a spike in fuel costs. Arjun and Annika combat the threat of competition by hiring a web designer to create an online e-commerce site, which will expand their reach to new customers. They combat increased shipping costs by finding a local supplier who is able to obtain high-quality inventory without having to incur high shipping costs. By conducting a SWOT analysis, Arjun and Annika are able to capitalize on their strengths, address their weaknesses, take advantage of an opportunity, and mitigate threats, which will help them continue to grow their business successfully.
Strategic planning is done by top management and determines the major goals of the organization and the policies, procedures, strategies, and resources it will need to achieve them. Policies are broad guidelines for action, and strategies determine the best way to use resources. At the strategic planning stage, top managers of the company decide which customers to serve, when to serve them, what products or services to sell, and the geographic areas in which to compete. In today's rapidly changing environment, strategic planning is becoming more difficult because changes are occurring so fast that plans, even those set for just months into the future, may soon be obsolete. Streaming giant Netflix changed its long-term plan and significantly increased spending on original programming due to fierce competition from Amazon, Disney, and others that changed the streaming media market. Netflix spent over $18 billion on original content in 2023 in an attempt to fend off the increased competition. Netflix and Disney also initiated a lower-priced streaming tier that included some advertising. Technology shifts can also change company strategic plans quickly. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, now called Meta, committed a multi-billion-dollar investment in the company's Reality Labs unit to help the company focus on the development of the metaverse. Think of how an amusement park company like Six Flags might need to change its plans depending on the price of gas. When the price of gas soars and crowds decrease, Six Flags can offer reduced ticket prices in exchange for a gas receipt. When gas prices drop and crowds increase, pricing can go back to normal. Page 178. Even though top managers are responsible for strategic planning, it is important for them to listen to those who might have the best strategic insights employees. Employees whose ideas about strategy are ignored might get the last laugh. A classic example is the late Steve Jobs. He left the company he helped found, Apple, due to product development issues with the company's CEO and board. After leaving, Jobs formed NEXT, a computer platform development company, and later acquired a computer graphics division of Lucasfilm that would become Pixar. In 1996, Apple purchased NEXT, a move that brought Jobs back into the company. A year later, he became CEO and helped build Apple into the global powerhouse it is today. Page 179. Adapting to change, the rise of AI, competitors or colleagues, the overwhelming uncertainty of recent years, combined with ever-evolving technology, has led many companies to consider how artificial intelligence AI could streamline their administrative capabilities. After all, managers spend a considerable amount of time on routine work like filling in forms, updating spreadsheets, approving workflows, and other repetitive tasks. These responsibilities could be turned into automated procedures that allow managers to focus on human-oriented areas like strategic planning, where machines lack an element of creativity. As AI capabilities increase, however, so do people's fears that they will lose their jobs to robots. For middle managers working in finance and inventory management, they could eventually face competition from automated systems that are simply quicker at translating data than humans. Andrei Popov, Shutterstock. Some experts believe that AI is not sophisticated enough yet to replace human labor on a wide scale. Much of what AI does is to synthesize existing knowledge with a specific goal in mind. This is quite far from creating new technology, said Dimitris Papanicolaou, a professor of finance at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. As a result, more managers will likely collaborate with AI tools rather than face replacement by them. So, while some administrative roles face a potentially rocky future due to AI, most experts remain upbeat about the future of management. Humans alone set the course for the continued evolution of technology, and there is still a level of reasoning only human strategists can accomplish. A manager's ability to think strategically and intuitively promises to be more prized in the coming collaborative era of human-machine partnerships. Sources: Joe McKendrick and Andy Thuray. AI isn't ready to make unsupervised decisions. Harvey Business Review, hrb.org. September 15th, 2022. Garrett D. Venk and Rachel Lerman. Google is training its robots to be more like humans. The Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com, October 6th, 2022. October 16th, 2022. Paris marks AI's dirty secret. Business Insider, businessinsider.com. February 12th, 2023. Sophie Kitterlin. Artificial intelligence is booming, but how will it impact your career? CNBC.com, February 20th, 2023. Clearly, companies need to make plans that allow for quick responses to customer needs and requests. The goal is to be flexible and responsive to the market. The Adapting to Change box talks about how artificial intelligence, AI, may change the role of managers in the future. Tactical planning is the process of developing detailed short-term statements about what it is to be done, what it is to do it, and how. Managers or teams of managers at lower levels of the organization normally make tactical plans. Such plans can include setting annual budgets and deciding on other activities necessary to meet strategic objectives. If the strategic plan of a truck manufacturer, for example, is to sell electric-powered trucks in the South, the tactical plan might be to fund more research of Southern truck drivers' attitudes and opinions about electric-powered trucks, and then plan information and promotions to reach them. Operational planning is the process of setting work standards and schedules necessary to implement the company's tactical objectives. Whereas strategic planning looks at the organization as a whole, operational planning focuses on specific supervisors, department managers, and individual employees. The operational plan is the department manager's tool for daily and weekly operations. An operational plan may include, for example, the specific dates for certain truck parts to be completed and the quality specifications they must meet before production. Contingency planning is the process of preparing alternative courses of action. The firm can use if its primary plans don't work out. The economic and competitive environments change so rapidly that it's wise to have alternative plans of action ready in anticipation of such changes. For example, if organization doesn't meet its sales goals by a certain date, the contingency plan may call for more advertising or a cut in prices at that time. Crisis planning is a part of contingency planning that anticipates sudden, unexpected changes in the environment. For example, when the COVID-19 pandemic forced restaurants to close their dining rooms to customers to stop the spread of the virus, many restaurants began curbside service, where patrons could order food and pick it up at designated spots outside the restaurant. Many cities and businesses have developed contingency plans to respond to terrorist attacks or natural disasters such as floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. You can use how important such plans are to hospitals, airlines, the police, and police transportation authorities. Page 180. Thomas Boyd, the Oregonian AP Images. Organizations of all kinds need contingency plans for unexpected events. Here, firefighters perform a decontamination procedure as part of a training program simulating their responses to various disasters. What contingency plans are you aware of on your campus or at work? Instead of creating detailed strategic plans, the leaders of market-based companies that respond quickly to companies that respond quickly to changes in competition or to other environmental changes, often simply set direction. They want to stay flexible, listen to customers, and seize opportunities, expected or not. Think of how stores selling running shoes must adapt to style changes, and creators of video games like Sony, Activision, and Electronic Arts adapt to changing consumer trends. The opportunities, however, must fit into the company's overall goals and objectives. If not, the company could lose its focus. Clearly, then, much of management and planning requires decision-making. Finding the best alternative. Planning and all other management functions require decision-making. Decision-making is choosing among two or more alternatives, which sounds easier than it is. In fact, decision-making is the heart of all the management functions. The rational decision-making model is a series of steps managers often follow to make logical interpretation and well-founded decisions. Think of these steps as the 6 Ds of decision-making. 1. Define the situation. 2. Describe and collect needed information. 3. Develop alternatives. 4. Decide which alternative is best. 5. Do what is indicated. Begin implementation. 6. Determine whether the decision was a good one and follow up. Page 181. Managers don't always go through the 6-step process. Sometimes they have to make decisions on the spot with little information available. They still must make good decisions in all such circumstances. Problem solving is less formal than decision making and usually calls for quicker action to resolve everyday issues. Both decision making and problem solving call for a lot of judgment. Problem solving teams are 2 or more workers assigned to solve a specific problem. Like, for example, why aren't customers buying our service contracts? Problem-solving techniques include brainstorming, that is, coming up with as many solutions as possible in a short period of time, with no censoring of ideas. Another technique is called PMI. Or listing all the pluses for a solution in one column. All the minuses in another, and the implications in a third. The idea is to make sure the pluses exceed the minuses. You can try using the PMI system on some of your personal decisions to get some practice. For example, should you stay home and study tonight? List all the pluses in one column. Plus, better grades, more self-esteem, more responsible behavior, and so on. In the other column, put the minuses: boredom, less fun, and so forth. We hope the pluses outweigh the minuses most of the time, and that you study often, but sometimes it's best to go out and have some fun, as long as doing so won't hurt your grades or job prospects. Test prep. What is the difference between goals and objectives? What does a company analyze? When does a SWOT analyze? What are the differences among strategic, tactical, and operational planning? What are the 6 D's of decision making? Organizing, creating a unified system. LO 7-4. Describe the organizing function of management. After managers have planned a course of action, they must organize the firm to accomplish their goals. That means allocating resources such as funds for various departments, assigning tasks, and establishing procedures. A managerial pyramid shows the organization's level of management. See Figure 7.4. Top management. The highest level consists of the president and other key company executives who develop strategic plans. Job titles and abbreviations you're likely to see often are Chief Executive Officer, CEO, Chief Operating Officer, COO, Chief Financial Officer, CFO, and Chief Information Officer, CIO, or in some companies, Chief Knowledge Officer, CKO. The CEO is often also the president of the firm and is responsible for all top-level decisions. The CEO and president are the same person in many of the S&P 500 companies, including big companies such as Ford Motor Company, Walmart, Amazon, and Procter & Gamble. 7.4. Levels of management. This figure shows the 3 levels of management. In many firms, there are several levels of middle management. However, firms have eliminated many middle-level managers because fewer are needed to oversee self-managed teams and higher skilled employees. Top management. President, vice president, middle management, plant managers, division heads, branch managers, supervisory first line management, supervisors, department heads, section leaders, non-supervisory employees. CEOs are responsible for introducing change into an organization. The COO is responsible for putting those changes into effect. Their tasks include structuring work, controlling operations, and rewarding people to ensure that everyone strives to carry out the leader's vision. Many companies today have eliminated the COO function as a cost-cutting measure and have assigned that role to the CEO. Often the CFO participates in the decision to cut the COO position. The CFO is responsible for obtaining funds, planning budgets, collecting funds, and so on. The CIO or CKO is responsible for getting the right information to other managers so they can make correct decisions. CIOs are more important than ever to the success of their companies, given the crucial role that information technology has come to play in every aspect of business. Page 182. Middle management includes general managers, division managers, and branch and plant managers. In colleges, deans and department heads who are responsible for tactical planning and controlling. Many firms have eliminated some middle managers through downsizing and have given their remaining managers more employees to supervise. Nonetheless, middle managers are still considered very important to most firms. Supervisory management includes those directly responsible for supervising workers and evaluating their daily performance. They're often known as first-line managers or supervisors because they're the first level above workers. This is the first management position you are most likely to acquire after college. The First-Time Manager, written by Lauren B. Belker, Jim McCormick, and Gary S. Topchick, and First-Time Managers Start Here by Donna Aldrich, are good sources for individuals assuming their first management job. Tasks and skills at different levels of management. Few people are trained to be good managers. Usually a person learns how to be a skilled accountant or sales representative or production line worker, and then become deeply involved in showing others how to do things, coaching them, supervising them, and generally being active in the operating task. The further up the manager ladder a person moves, the less important their original job skills become. At the top of the ladder, the need is for people who are visionaries, planners, organizers, coordinators, communicators, morale builders, and motivators. Figure 7.5 shows that a manager must have 3 categories of skills. 1. Technical skills are the ability to perform tasks in a specific discipline, such as selling a product or developing software, or department, such as marketing or information systems. 2. Human relations skills include communication and motivation. They enable managers to work through and with people. Communication can be especially difficult when managers and employees speak different languages. Skills associated with leadership, coaching, morale building, delegating, training and development, and supportiveness are also human relations skills. 3. Conceptual skills. Let the manager picture the organization as a whole and see the relationships among its various parts. They are needed in planning, organizing, controlling, systems development, problem analysis, decision-making, coordinating, and delegating. Page 183, Figure 7.5, Skills needed at various levels of management. All managers need human relations skills. At the top, managers need strong conceptual skills and rely less on technical skills. First-line managers need strong technical skills and rely less on conceptual skills. Middle managers need to have a balance between technical and conceptual skills. Top managers, technical skills, human relations skills, conceptual skills. Middle managers, technical skills, human relations skills, conceptual skills. First line managers, technical skills, human relations skills, conceptual skills. Look again at figure 7.5. You'll notice that first line managers need to be skilled in all 3 areas. However, they spend most of their time on technical and human relations skills, like assisting operating personnel and giving directions, and less time on conceptual tasks. Top managers, in contrast, need to use few technical skills. Instead, they spend almost all their time on human relations and conceptual tasks. A person who is competent at lower level management may not be competent at higher levels and vice versa. Different skills are needed at different levels. Staffing. Getting and keeping the right people. To get the right kind of people to staff an organization, the firm has to offer the right kind of incentives. For example, big tech firms provided gourmet chefs to cook up free lunches, dinners, and snacks for employees, as well as massage therapy, an on-site gym, and other perks. As the sector cooled, Due to a slowing economy, many of those perks disappeared. What key incentives would appeal to you? How important to you is pay relative to other incentives such as health coverage and flexible time off? Staffing is recruiting, hiring, motivating, and retaining the best people available to accomplish the company's objectives. Today, staffing is critical, especially at high-tech companies like Google and Microsoft, where the primary capital equipment is brain power. A firm with innovative and creative workers can sometimes go from startup to major competitor in just a few years. Many people are not willing to work at companies unless they are treated well and get fair pay. They also may leave to find a better balance between work and home. Staffing is becoming a greater part of each manager's assignment, and all managers need to cooperate with human resource management to win and keep good workers. Chapter 11 is devoted to human resource issues, including staffing. Read the Adapting to Change box to learn about how the COVID-19 pandemic and changing employee attitudes are affecting managers' abilities to effectively staff their organizations. Leading, providing continuous vision and values. LO 7-5. Explain the differences between leaders and managers and describe the various leadership styles. One person might be a good manager but not a good leader. Another might be a good leader without being a good manager. Managers strive to produce order and stability, whereas leaders embrace and manage change. Leadership is creating a vision for others to follow, establishing corporate values and ethics, and transforming the way the organization does business in order to improve its effectiveness and efficiency. Good leaders motivate workers and create the environment for them to motivate themselves. Management is carrying out the leader's vision. Page 184. Adapting to change. Staffing's new normal. Managers in the mid-2020s face new challenges in staffing and managing an organization's employees. The COVID-19 pandemic upended work in the United States in many ways, most notably by ushering in a new era of telecommuting and remote work, as Zoom became the nation's place for meetings and home was the workplace. Then there were millions of people who made their exit from the office more permanent. The years following 2020 saw an unprecedented number of Americans quit their jobs in an event the news media nicknamed the Great Resignation. Additionally, large numbers of workers declared they did not want to return to their jobs full-time after the pandemic subsided. They preferred to continue working remotely as they did during the pandemic. Some stipulated they would not return unless they could work a reduced or part-time schedule. Nuthawat Sumsuk, iStock, Getty Images Plus, Getty Images. Managers know that the only way to attract and keep productive and satisfied employees is to create an ideal work environment, whether workers are working hybrid, remotely, or at the office. By dissolving or reducing traditional workplace boundaries, managers and employees can challenge prior practices and develop new work conditions. Managers can experiment, pilot, and define new work parameters that help build employee collaboration and empowerment. Like so many other consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, only time will tell how the shifting power balance between employees and managers will affect organizations and managers in the United States. Sources: Why is the workplace experience so bad in 2023? Harvard Business Review, HBR.org, February 28, 2023. Suzanne Caminiti, Human Capital 2023, New Ways to Work in a World Without Boundaries. The Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, February 8, 2023. Getting workers engaged and in the office again takes empathy and experimentation. CNBC.com, February 19th, 2023. Lauren Weber, Burned Out. More Americans want to work part-time. The Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, February 25th, 2023. Leaders, page 185. Leaders must therefore communicate a vision and rally others around that vision. The leader should be openly sensitive to the concerns of followers, give them responsibility, and win their trust. A successful leader must influence the actions of others. David Calhoun took the reins at Boeing in the middle of a crisis over the company's handling of two crashes involving its 737 MAX plane. He set a new commitment to full transparency at the company to regain confidence in Boeing with consumers, employees, and the Federal Aviation Administration. Though Boeing's comeback has been slow, considerable progress has been made, and Calhoun continues to win support from the company for his leadership and vision. Establish corporate values. These include concern for employees, for customers, for the environment, and for the quality of the company's products. When companies set their business goals, they're defining the company's values as well. The number one trait that others look for in a leader is honesty. The second requirement is that the leader be forward-looking. Promote corporate ethics. Ethical behavior includes an unfailing demand for honesty and an insistence that everyone in the company gets treated fairly. See the Making Ethical Decisions box. That's why we stress ethical decision making throughout this text. Many business people have made the news by giving away huge amounts to charity, thus setting a model of social concern for their employees and others. Embrace change. A leader's most important job may be to transform the way the company does business so that it's more effective, does things better, and more efficient, uses fewer resources to accomplish the same objectives. Stress accountability and responsibility. If there is anything that was learned from the financial crisis in 2008 that involved failures of banking managers and other industry and government leaders, it is that managers need to be held accountable and need to feel responsible for their actions. A key word that emerged from the financial crisis is transparency. Transparency is the presentation of a company's facts and figures in a way that is clear and apparent to all stakeholders. Stephen Brashear, Getty Images News, Getty Images. Microsoft boss Satya Nadella likes to say that the C in CEO stands for culture. In his time in charge of the tech giant, Nadella has fostered a company culture centered around empathy and growth that serves as the root of every decision made at Microsoft. In fact, Nadella claims that culture defines the success of every organization. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Making ethical decisions, ambition versus being a team player. First line managers often assist in the decisions made by their department heads. However, the department heads retain full responsibility for the decisions. If a plan succeeds, it's their success. If a plan fails, it's their failure. Now imagine this. As a first line manager, you have uncovered new information that your department head is not aware of and probably will not see. Your findings indicate that your manager's recent plan has a very high possibility of failing. If the plan does fail, the manager most certainly will be demoted or fired, and you're the candidate most likely to fill the vacancy. Will you give your department head the information or keep it to yourself? What is the ethical thing to do? What might be the consequences of your decision? All organizations need leaders, and all employees can help lead. You don't have to be a manager to perform a leadership function. That is, any employee can motivate others to work well. Add to a company's ethical environment and report ethical lapses when they occur. McGraw-Hill Connect, I see it. Need help understanding management, leadership, and leadership styles? Click on the video for a brief animated explanation.
Zack Zachariah is the most sought-after director in Hollywood. He's known for his surprise twist endings that make big bucks at the box office. When Zack gets ready to start a new film, he gathers his team to share his vision for the project. He depends on a large crew of visual effects supervisors, production managers, casting directors, actors, and so on to help him realize his goals. Zack is not just the director of this movie, he's the leader. He gives his managers the authority to organize and plan their departments, hire the best people to get the job done, and control the film production's activities in order to meet his goals. Both leaders and managers tend to rely on three main leadership styles: autocratic, democratic, and free rein. Zack adapts his leadership style depending on the situation. When he's shooting a huge crowd scene, Zack makes all the decisions and doesn't allow the crew or the extras any input in an effort to quickly and effectively get the job done. When Zack is working one-on-one with his Oscar-winning movie star, he's more democratic. He encourages his leading lady's input, but he still decides what makes the final cut. Before the actors actually shoot a scene, Zack lets them have fun with it. He gives them a goal to work toward, but allows the actors free rein to make whatever choices they like. Zack's ability to lead his team has a huge influence on how successful his managers, workers, and the final product will be. Now all we have to do is wait for the sequel.
Leadership styles. Nothing has challenged management researchers more than the search for the best leadership traits, behaviors, or styles. Thousands of studies have tried to identify characteristics that make leaders different from other people. Intuitively, you might conclude the same thing they did. Leadership traits are hard to pin down. Some leaders are well-groomed and tactful, while others are unkempt and abrasive, yet both may be just as effective. Just as no one set of traits describes a leader, no one style of leadership works best in all situations. Even so, we can look at a few of the most commonly recognized leadership styles and see how they may be effective. See Figure 7.6, page 186. 1. Autocratic leadership. means making managerial decisions without consulting others. This style is effective in emergencies and when absolute followership is needed. For example, when fighting fires. Autocratic leadership is also effective sometimes with new, relatively unskilled workers who need clear direction and guidance. It is also often successful in sports at the college and professional levels. The New England Patriots have won 6 Super Bowls under the autocratic leadership of Coach Bill Belichick. Nick Saban, head coach at the University of Alabama, has built a football dynasty that has won 5 national championships under his stern control. Outside of sports, autocratic leadership seems effective in such areas such as manufacturing and fast food preparation, as well as high-risk situations involving police fire and the military. Martha Stewart's attention to detail and her authoritarian style have helped her build her business, living Omnimedia into the influential conglomerate that it is today. 2. Participative democratic leadership involves managers and employees working together to make decisions. Employees meet with managers to discuss and resolve management issues by giving everyone some opportunity to contribute to decisions. Employee participation in decisions may not always increase effectiveness, but it usually does help increase job satisfaction. CEOs like Apple's Tim Cook, Coca-Cola CEO Muhtar Kent, and Hershey CEO Michelle Buck have been highly successful using a democratic style of leadership. Many small businesses that value traits such as flexibility, good listening skills, participation, and empathy have also had great results. 3. In free-rein leadership, managers set objectives and employees are free to do whatever is appropriate to accomplish those objectives. Free-rein leadership is often the most successful leadership style in certain organizations, such as those in which managers supervise doctors, professors, software developers, engineers, or other professionals. The traits managers need in such organizations include warmth, friendliness, and understanding. More and more firms are adopting this style of leadership with at least some of their skilled employees. Figure 7.6. Various leadership styles. Boss-centered leadership. Subordinate-centered leadership. Use of authority by manager. Area of freedom for employee. Manager makes decision and announces it. Manager sells decision. Manager presents ideas and invites questions. Manager presents tentative decision subject to change. Manager presents problem, gets suggestions, makes decisions. Manager defines limits, asks group to make decision. Manager permits employee to function within limits defined by superior. Autocratic, participative, and democratic, free reign. Source: Robert Tannenbaum and Warren Schmidt. How to Choose a Leadership Pattern, Harvard Business Review, May through June 1973. Individual leaders rarely fit neatly into just one of these categories. We can think of leadership as a continuum along which employee participation varies, from purely boss-centered leadership to employee-centered leadership. Terry Schmidt, UPI, Alamy stock photo. Steve Jobs, the late co-founder and CEO of Apple, revolutionized global communication through the release of iconic devices like the iPhone and iPad. He was also famous for his autocratic leadership style, preferring to make decisions himself rather than collaborating closely with others for guidance. Why do you think Jobs' leadership style succeeded in a high-pressure, cutting-edge environment like Apple? Which leadership style is best? Research tells us that it depends largely on what the goals and values of the firm are. Who's being led and in what situations? A manager may be autocratic but friendly with a new trainee, participative, democratic with an experienced employee, and free rein with a trusted long-term supervisor. There's no such thing as a leadership trait that is effective in all situations, or a leadership style that always works best. A successful leader in one organization may not be successful in another organization. A truly successful leader has the ability to adopt the leadership style most appropriate to the situation and the employees. Page 187. Empowering workers. Many leaders in the past gave explicit instructions to workers, telling them what to do to meet the goals and objectives and the organization. The term for this process is directing. Managers are sometimes reluctant to give up decision-making power. In traditional organizations, directing includes giving assignments, explaining routines, clarifying policies, and providing feedback on performance. Many organizations still follow this model, especially fast food restaurants and small retail establishments, where the employees often don't have the skill and experience needed to work on their own, at least at first. SOPA Images Limited and Alamy Stock Photo. Fast food restaurant employees often don't have the skill and experience to make empowerment work very well. Instead, their managers generally have to supervise and direct them fairly closely. What do you think are some of the consequences for managers of not being able to empower their staff with decision-making authority? Progressive leaders, such as those in some high-tech firms and internet companies, empower employees to make decisions on their own. Empowerment means giving employees the authority to make a decision without consulting the manager and the responsibility to respond quickly to customer requests. For example, online shoe and clothing retailer Zappos, luxury hotel chain Ritz-Carlton, and retailer Costco give their employees wide discretion to do whatever they feel is right to please customers. In firms that implement this concept, the manager's role is less that of a boss and director and more that of a coach, collaborator, counselor, or team member. Enabling means giving workers the education, training, and tools they need to make decisions. Clearly, it's the key to the success of empowerment. Without the right education, orientation, training, coaching, and tools, workers cannot assume the responsibilities and decision-making roles that make empowerment work. Managing knowledge. Knowledge is power. Empowering employees means giving them knowledge. That is the information they need to do the best job they can. Finding the right information, keeping it in a readily accessible place, and making it known to everyone in the firm together constitute the tasks of knowledge management. Today, there is no shortage of information to manage. In fact, the amount of data gathered has grown so much that big data has become the popular term. to describe the vast collection of available information. This data is collected from both traditional sources like sales transactions and digital sources like social media from both inside and outside the company. The first step to developing a knowledge management system is determining that knowledge is most important. Do you want to know more about your customers? Do you want to know more about competitors? What kind of information would make your company more effective or more efficient or more responsive to the marketplace? Once you've decided what you need to know, you set out to find answers to those questions. Knowledge management tries to keep people from reinventing the wheel, that is, duplicating the work of gathering information every time a decision must be made. A company really progresses when each person continually asks, "What do I still not know?" and "Whom should I be asking?" It's as important to know what's not working as it is to know what is working. Employees and managers have texting, tweeting, and other means of keeping in touch with one another, with customers, and with other stakeholders. The key to success is learning how to process information effectively and turn it into knowledge that everyone can use to improve processes and procedures. The benefits are obvious. See Appendix B for a more detailed discussion about using technology to manage information. Page 188, Controlling, Making Sure It Works, LO 7-6, summarize the 5 steps of the control function of management. The control function measures performance relative to the planned objectives and standards, rewards people for work well done, and takes corrective action when necessary. Thus, the control process, see Figure 7.7, provides the feedback that lets managers and workers adjust to deviations from plans and to changes in the environment that have affected performance. Figure 7.7, the control process. The whole control process is based on clear standards. Without such standards, the other steps are difficult, if not impossible. With clear standards, performance measurement is relatively easy and the proper action can be taken. 1. Establish clear standards. 2. Monitor and record performance. 3. Compare results against standards. 4. Communicate results. 5. If needed, take corrective action. Are standards realistic? Feedback. Controlling consists of 5 steps. 1. Establishing clear performance standards. The ties the planning function to the control function. This ties the planning function to the control function. Without clear standards, control is impossible. 2. Monitoring and recording actual performance or results. 3. Comparing results against plans and standards. 4. Communicating results and deviations to the appropriate employees. 5. Taking corrective action when needed and providing positive feedback for work well done. For managers to measure results, the standards must be specific, attainable, and measurable. Setting such clear standards is a key part of the planning function. Vague goals and standards such as better quality, more efficiency, and improved performance aren't sufficient because they don't describe in enough detail what you're trying to achieve. For example, let's say you're a runner and you have made this following statement. My goal is to improve my distance. When you started your improvement plan last year, you ran 2.0 miles a day. Now you run 2.1 miles a day. Did you meet your goal? Well, you did increase your distance, but certainly not by very much. A more appropriate statement would be, my goal is to increase my running distance from 2 miles a day to 4 miles a day by January 1st. It's important to establish a time period for reaching goals. The following examples of goals and standards meet these criteria. Page 189, cutting the number of finished product rejects from 10 per 1,000 to 5 per 1,000 by March 31st, increasing the number of times managers praise employees from 3 per week to 12 per week by the end of the quarter, increasing sales of product X from 10,000 per month to 12,000 per month by July. One way to make control systems work is to establish clear procedures for monitoring performance. Accounting and finance are often the foundations for control systems because they provide the numbers management needs to evaluate progress. A key criterion for measurement: customer satisfaction. Traditional measures of success are usually financial. That is, they define success in terms of profits or return on investment. Certainly, these measures are still important, but they're not the whole purpose of the firm. Other purposes may include pleasing employees, stakeholders, and customers, including both external and internal customers. Cali 9 E plus Getty Images. One way colleges and universities measure their performance is to track the number of students who complete their degrees or who graduate within a certain number of years. What are some of the factors that could affect the achievement of this performance standard, and how do college administrators take corrective action when necessary? External customers include dealers who buy products to sell to others, and ultimate customers, also known as end users, such as you and me, who buy products for their own personal use. Internal customers are individuals and units within the firm that receive services from other individuals or units. For example, the field salespeople are the internal customers of the marketing research people who prepare market reports for them. One goal today is to go beyond simply satisfying customers to delighting them with unexpectedly good products and services. We'll discuss management in more detail in the next few chapters. Let's pause now, review, and do some exercises. Management is doing, not just reading. Test prep. How does enabling help achieve empowerment? What are the 5 steps in the control process? What's the difference between internal and external customers? Summary LO7-1. Describe the changes occurring today in the management function. Page 190. What does management look like today? At one time, managers were called bosses, and their job consisted of telling people what to do, watching over them to be sure they did it, and reprimanding those who didn't. Many, if not most, managers still behave that way. Today, however, some managers tend to be more progressive. For example, they emphasize teams and team building. They create drop-in centers, team spaces, and open work areas. They tend to guide, train, support, motivate, and coach employees rather than just tell them what to do. What reasons can you give to account for changes in management? Leaders of Fortune 100 companies today tend to be younger, more diverse, and not educated at elite universities. They know that many of their employees know more about technology and other technical applications than they do. Therefore, they tend to put more emphasis on motivation, teamwork, and cooperation. Managers in the future are likely to be assuming completely new roles in the firm. Further, they'll continue more expansion and interaction in global markets. LO7-2. Describe the four functions of management. What are the primary functions of management? The four primary functions are 1. Planning, 2. Organizing, 3. Leading, and 4. Controlling. How do you define each of these functions? Planning includes anticipating trends and determining the best strategies and tactics to achieve organizational goals and objectives. Organizing includes designing the structure of the organization and creating conditions and systems in which everyone and everything work together to achieve the organization's goals and objectives. Leading means creating a vision for the organization and communicating, guiding, training, coaching, and motivating others to achieve goals and objectives. Controlling means measuring whether what actually occurs meets the organization's goals. LO7-3. Relate the planning process and decision-making to the accomplishment of company goals. What's the difference between goals and objectives? Goals are broad, long-term achievements that organizations aim to accomplish, whereas objectives are specific, short-term plans made to help reach the goals. What is a SWOT analysis? Managers look at the strengths and weaknesses of the firm and the opportunities and threats facing it. What are the four types of planning, and how are they related to the organization's goals and objectives? Strategic planning is broad, long-range planning that outlines the goals of the organization. Tactical planning is specific, short-term planning that lists organizational objectives. Operational planning is part of tactical planning and sets specific timetables and standards. Contingency planning is developing an alternative set of plans in case the first set doesn't work out. What are the steps involved in decision making? The 6 D's of decision making are 1. Define the situation, 2. Describe and collect needed information, 3. Develop alternatives, 4. Decide which alternative is best, 5. Do what is indicated, begin implementation, and 6. Determine whether the decision was a good one and follow up. LO7-4. Describe the organizing function of management. Page 191. What are the 3 levels of management in the corporate hierarchy? The 3 levels of management are 1. Top management, highest level consisting of the president, CEO, and other key company executives who develop strategic plans. 2. Middle management, general managers, division managers, and plant managers who are responsible for tactical planning and controlling. And 3. Supervisory management, first line managers and supervisors who evaluate workers' daily performance. What skills do managers need? Managers must have 3 categories of skills. 1. Technical skills, ability to perform specific tasks such as selling products or developing software. 2. Human relations skills, ability to communicate and motivate. And 3. Conceptual skills, ability to see organizations as a whole and how all the parts fit together. Are these skills equally important at all management levels? Managers at different levels need different skills. Top managers rely heavily on human relations and conceptual skills, and rarely use technical skills, while first-line supervisors need strong technical and human relations skills, but use conceptual skills less often. Middle managers need to have a balance of all 3 skills. See Figure 7.5. LO7-5. Explain the differences between leaders and managers and describe the various leadership styles. What's the difference between a manager and a leader? A manager plans, organizes, and controls functions within an organization. A leader has vision and inspires others to grasp that vision, establishes corporate values, emphasizes corporate ethics, and doesn't fear change. Describe the various leadership styles. Figure 7.6 shows a continuum of leadership styles ranging from boss-centered to employee-centered leadership. Which leadership style is best? The most effective leadership style depends on the people being led and the situation. The challenge of the future will be to empower self-managed teams. What does empowerment mean? Empowerment means giving employees the authority and responsibility to respond quickly to customer requests. Enabling is giving workers the education, training, and tools they need to assume their new decision-making powers. What is knowledge management? Knowledge management is finding the right information, keeping the information in a readily accessible place, and making the information known to everyone in the firm. LO 7-6. Summarize the 5 steps of the control function of management. What are the 5 steps of the control function? Controlling incorporates 1. Setting clear standards. 2. Monitoring and recording performance. 3. Comparing performance with plans and standards. 4. Communicating results and deviations to employees. And 5. Providing positive feedback for a job well done and taking corrective action if necessary. What qualities must standards possess to measure performance results? Standards must be specific, attainable, and measurable. Key terms: autocratic leadership, page 185. Brainstorming, conceptual skills, contingency planning, controlling, decision-making, empowerment, enabling, external customers, free-rein leadership, goals, human relations skills, internal customers, knowledge management, leading management, middle management, mission statement, objectives, operational planning, organizing, participative, democratic leadership, planning, PMI, problem solving, staffing, strategic planning, supervisory management, SWOT analysis, tactical planning, technical skills, top management, transparency, and vision. Critical thinking. Many students say they would like to be a manager someday. Here are some questions to get you started thinking like a manager. 1. Would you like to work for a large firm or a small business? Private or public company? In an office or out in the field? Give your reasons for each answer. 2. What kind of leader would you be? Do you have evidence to support your choice? 3. Do you see any problems with a participative democratic leadership style? Can you see a manager getting frustrated when they can't control others? How would you feel about your employees working from their homes? 4. Can someone who's trained to give direction and orders, like a military sergeant, be retrained to be a participative leader? How? What problems may emerge? Putting principles to work. Purpose: to perform a simple SWOT analysis. Exercise: go to marketingteacher.com, click on Marketing Teacher's Lesson Store, and select SWOT analysis examples. Click the link on the SWOT analysis for Nike. 1. What are Nike's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? 2. Analyze Nike's weaknesses. How do you think the company's strengths might be used to overcome some of its weaknesses? 3. Analyze Nike's opportunities and threats. What additional opportunities can you suggest? What additional threats can you identify? Developing career skills. Key: team, analytic, communication, and technology. 1. Allocate time to do some career planning with a SWOT analysis of your present situation. Choose one career you are interested in and answer the following questions. What does the marketplace for your chosen career look like today? What skills do you have that will make you a winner in that type of career? What weaknesses might you target to correct? What are the threats to your career choice? What are the opportunities? Prepare a short presentation to the class. 2. Bring several decks of cards to class and have the class break up into teams of 4 or so members. Each team should then elect a leader. Each leader should be assigned a leadership style and learn how to perform that style. Autocratic, participative, democratic, or free reign. Have each team try to build a house of cards by stacking them on top of each other. The team with the tallest house wins. Each team member should report their experience under the selected style of leadership. 3. In class, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of becoming a manager today. Does the size of the business make a difference? What are the advantages of a career in a profit-seeking business versus a career in a non-profit organization? 4. Review 7.6 and discuss managers you have known, worked for, or read about who have practiced each management style. See if students from other countries have interesting experiences to add about managers in their country. Which managerial style did you like best? Why? Which one seemed to be most effective? Why? 5. Because of the illegal and unethical behavior of a few managers are often under suspicion for being greedy and dishonest. Discuss the fairness of such charges and suggest what could be done to improve the opinion of managers among the students in your class. Page 193. Career exploration. If you are interested in pursuing a career in management, here are a few to consider. Find out about the tasks performed, skills needed, pay, and opportunity outlook in these fields in the Occupational Outlook Handbook, OOH at bls.gov. Administrative Services Manager plans, directs, and coordinates supportive services of an organization, maintains facilities, and supervises activities that include record keeping, mail distribution, and office upkeep. Construction Manager plans, coordinates budgets, and supervises construction projects from start to finish. Emergency Management Director prepares plans and procedures for responding to natural disasters or other emergencies. Food Service Manager is responsible for the daily operation of restaurants and other establishments that prepare and serve food and beverages. Computer and Information Technology IT Manager plans, coordinates, and directs technology-related activities in an organization. Video Case 1. McGraw-Hill Connect, Rosetta Stone, Leader in Language Learning.
You're probably familiar with Rosetta Stone, the company that teaches people how to speak foreign languages. It's one of the most recognized brands in the United States. And while their philosophy and method of teaching foreign languages has always been excellent, their product was dated. Long after the rest of the world moved on to the internet, Rosetta Stone was still sending their lessons to customers on CDs. It was time for a change. They needed a leader who could bring them into the 21st century. Enter Matt Hewlett as president of language at Rosetta Stone. Matt is the leader of the enterprise and consumer products divisions. It's his responsibility to create a vision and to motivate employees to not only embrace that vision, but to achieve it with their skills and dedication. It's also part of a leader's job to make change if the company requires it.
It's very difficult for some companies to change their business model from an existing business model. So Rosetta Stone got really, really good at selling $1,000 CDs. Over time, software became less expensive, and the form factor in which people were enjoying language learning moved from CDs to things like your smartphone. And so when I came in, I saw a company with multiple strategies, not particularly doing them relatively well in any one area.
Matt has developed 3 steps that he follows when making a big change at a company. They are heart and math, proving out the insight, and people.
When I think about businesses, I think about how do you enable heart and math. And the math piece, think of it as a business consultant coming in with a business plan and coming out with some kind of financial answer where you can win. That's all fine and good, but most people don't follow robots. And so if you can build a mission, culture, and values that enable your employee base to be excited about what they're doing, they can do amazing things. And I always like to think about dictating not what people do, but where we're going.
The second step in turning Rosetta Stone around was proving out the insight.
What's your strategic advantage? What's different about your business versus anything else? So when I looked at the business at Rosetta Stone, my hunch was what it turned out to be is the brand. The brand has been around for over 27 years. It's associated with high efficacy. A lot of customers around the world use it. That was really the unique truth and the unique competitive advantage that we really weren't taking advantage of. And so when you find those things, then you figure out, okay, how do I provide amplification to it, and how do I actually strengthen it over time?
Matt and the team at Rosetta Stone had to update the product to fit today's consumers, who are accustomed to doing everything online or on their phone.
It was like the game of Clue. We had all these facts, and then it was really trying to figure out how to uncover those facts and come up with a plan. And so a couple facts were interesting. One is we had this phenomenal brand, 97% awareness in the United States. However, fact one, none of those people knew we had a digital product. Fact two is we had this great digital product, but it wasn't really set up to be a digital business yet. So on the brand piece, we started hiring different team members that had brand experience and started to test into the brand and think about how to position the product for a broader base of customers, which was something that we weren't doing. On the product side, we actually started investing in digital native technology that made that smartphone experience really, really fun and unique to the phone. For example, we have a product feature called Seek and Speak that uses the phone to collect different images along your learning journey so it personalizes the conversation.
Matt's third turnaround step is people. Rather than bringing in his own people right away, Matt prefers to spend 5 or 6 months talking with current employees and listening to their ideas.
I think what businesses get wrong first is they, especially when you're trying to turn around a business, they assume everyone that was in a business prior to their arrival wasn't thinking about things correctly. And I typically find that's not true. I just like to listen. I like to listen to what people are doing. I like to listen about their motivations and some of their ideas. And for example, I just mentioned the Seek and Speak feature. That feature didn't come from some executive, didn't come from myself. It actually came from one of our developers.
By implementing and believing in his 3 steps for making change, Matt Hewlett has taken Rosetta Stone from the 20th century to the 21st century, and with the growth in revenue since he started.
So I think we're moving from a world where leadership was really about growth at all costs and focused on the bottom line to a much more blended approach of leadership is taking account not only the fiscal bottom line but also the social impact and employees. And I think that's a healthier place where we're trending towards. We're not all the way there yet, but very different than 30 years ago.
For nearly 30 years, Rosetta Stone has been one of the nation's most recognized and respected language learning companies. But as Rosetta Stone built a solid reputation over the years, its distribution system grew seriously outdated. The company continued to rely on CDs long after the rest of the world turned to the internet to reach customers. Rosetta Stone executives knew they needed a leader who could take the company into the 21st century. Fortunately, they hired Matt Hewlett, a successful entrepreneur who later became famous as a turnaround expert. While working at an online entertainment startup in the days before YouTube, Hewlett discovered that many of his creative colleagues knew little about business and management. That's when he started to learn all he could about capital strategy and how to apply proper leadership direction. These skills made him the perfect person to become Rosetta Stone's new president of language. As the leader of the company's consumer products division, Hewlett created a vision for the company and motivated employees to embrace that vision. He also made changes he felt were in the company's best interest. For instance, Hewlett found that Rosetta Stone was not committing enough resources to the company's largest potential market, individual consumers. In order to shift focus, he employed a 3-step process that helped him make big changes. In the first step, Hewlett analyzed the company's intended market and decided how to optimize its position. He also found ways to inspire employees so that they would do their best to reach customers. Second, Hewlett studied the company to find out what was unique about it. He discovered that Rosetta Stone's brand was a key component to its success. Although customers loved and respected the company, they wanted modern innovations like subscription models, improved mobile capabilities, and personalization. Along with streamlining the mobile experience, Hewlett also suggested using augmented reality to fit the product of the customer's personal needs. His final step was people. Rather than bringing in new workers to the company, Hewlett spent time with current employees and listened to their ideas for improving the product. This relationship building helped put the staff at ease and motivated them to work even harder. As a result, Rosetta Stone eventually built a product that worked just like its customers wanted. By implementing his 3 steps, Hewlett was able to make Rosetta Stone speak everybody's language. Page 194. Think it over. 1. Did it surprise you that until recently, a company would still be distributing content solely on CDs instead of online? Why do you think it took Rosetta Stone so long to move its language learning services online? 2. Why is it important for managers to keep their employees motivated and satisfied with their work? 3. Describe the process that Matt Hewlett employed to turn around Rosetta Stone. Do you think a similar management strategy would work at other companies? Video case 2. McGraw-Hill Connect, ensuring diversity at Best Buy.
Recent instances of racial injustice, such as the killing of George Floyd in May of 2020, have shocked the world. In all realms of society, people and organizations are being forced to confront difficult questions about equality and prejudice. And Minneapolis-based retailer Best Buy is no exception.
I think corporate America began to realize, how do we become a better neighbor? For Best Buy personally, we said, how do we do better?
Best Buy's leadership team was deeply impacted by the racial violence and subsequent protests of 2020. CEO Corey Berry released a statement addressing the turbulent situation. In it, she committed that Best Buy would work to make systemic, permanent changes that address social injustices to improve the company and the communities they serve.
We started to think about, how do we show up? How do we show up in making a difference in how we hire and create opportunities for all? How do we also show up in our communities? And how do we create access and skill learning for people that in the past haven't had that kind of access before? I think those types of reflection made us to lean in a way that we hadn't before.
To retain employees, Best Buy is providing systems of long-term support for underrepresented groups. There are leadership and training roles for Black, Indigenous, people of color, or BIPOC, and women employees, as well as mentorships, learning opportunities, and personal development programs.
If you look at most retailers, if you just look at the surface, you're going to find a diversified company. But if you start to look closer and you say, okay, let's not look at frontline employees. Let's make sure our frontline employees have a pathway to opportunity and continued growth based on their own desires and hopes. What we're saying as a company is that our representation will reflect the composition of our board. It's 50% women, and it's 30% BIPOC. And we're saying the most senior levels of our organization, our goal is that they will reflect the composition of our board.
To reach their goals, Best Buy is implementing sweeping changes to the way it hires and recruits, so that its workforce will grow increasingly diverse.
And if you think about it, if you're not used to corporate America, and the way we articulate things and the way we say things and the word choices we use, you could look at a job posting and the number one thing you would say, I'm not qualified for that. And so we're going through all of our job postings one at a time, so the language is simple and clear, and so that someone looking at it could say, not do I question myself, but I could see myself in that space.
Best Buy is taking its hiring seriously. And not just because inclusion is a hot-button topic right now. The company knows that when a workplace is diverse, welcoming, and tolerant, everyone in it thrives.
You can put a diverse team together. The ideas, the concepts, the innovation that is actually created when you build something called psychological safety, which means it's okay to be different. It's okay to say the thing in the room that no one else is saying. We value that. The reality is that companies that do that and teams that do that are better. They're far more innovative, they're far more creative, and the outcomes are tremendously better.
And beyond its next set of hires, Best Buy is looking to support the people it might hire 5 or even 10 years from now. Teen Tech Centers are free, safe after-school spaces where teens and disinvested communities can get hands-on experience with technology, training, and mentorship to help prepare them for jobs of the future.
A Teen Tech Center is about creating connections between human beings, about allowing them to explore with technology, about filling their mind with aspirations and opportunities. And it can unleash people in just an incredible way. Today we've got 35 Teen Tech Centers. In the future, we're going to have 100 Teen Tech Centers. And we believe that 100 Teen Tech Centers can impact 30,000 teenagers.
And the support doesn't stop when students graduate high school. Best Buy announced that by 2025, it would allocate $44 million to college prep, career opportunities, and scholarships for BIPOC students. Events of 2020 showed us that we live in a society that is far from egalitarian. After George Floyd's tragic death, Best Buy assessed its own contributions to the fight for equality and decided to do more.
I think the era today, with technology, will require even more humanness in our leadership approaches. It's about what are your aspirations and our commitment to developing those aspirations across all groups.
Events that culminated with the tragic death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, led to subsequent protests that shocked the world. The protests and actions opened the eyes of people across the globe to the injustice suffered by many in society. Corporate America was no exception. Companies committed to changing the status quo and taking innovative actions to rectify the inequities that existed in society and the corporate environment. Best Buy's leadership team was deeply impacted by the tragic situation and became one of the corporate leaders in this effort. As a first step, Best Buy CEO Corey Berry appointed a diverse group of individuals from various demographic groups and levels of management in the company. Their charge was to provide the senior leadership team and board of directors with substantive ways Best Buy could address the inequities and injustices that existed at the company. Several interesting questions surfaced immediately. Management was challenged to answer the question, how does Best Buy show up in terms of how people are hired and advance in the company, and how does the company show up in the community? Best Buy immediately implemented sweeping changes in how they handled recruiting and hiring to help build a workforce that is more diverse and offers more opportunities for personal and professional growth. The company did this by setting up systems, counseling, and mentorships that provide support to long underrepresented groups. One of the first tasks was to ensure that the wording in the company's job postings did not immediately discourage potential employees from applying for a job because they felt they were not qualified. Often the wording of the job description was the heart of the problem. The company went through each job posting to ensure the language was simple and appropriate and did not turn off potential applicants. Best Buy determined it was important to go beyond just immediate hiring issues. Instead, the company should look out 5 or 10 years in the future to make sure it would reach its long-term goals. It did this by setting up free teen tech centers in underprivileged communities to help acquaint youngsters with careers in technology. These centers offer training and mentorship that could lead them on a path to visualizing their future using technology in their careers today. Best Buy has 35 tech centers, but plans to expand to 100 centers. The company estimates that it can impact 30,000 young people through the teen centers. Plus, the support does not end when students graduate high school and leave the centers. Best Buy has committed by 2025 $44 million to assist with college prep, career opportunities, and scholarships that permit students to go beyond the tech centers. Best Buy is determined that inclusion will remain a major objective of the company, and managers at all levels will be involved with achieving this task. To meet these challenges of tomorrow, managers need to exert more humanness in leadership. Achieving a diverse organization is not just a signal of fairness and concern. Commitment to developing opportunities, goals, and aspirations with all employees and providing them the means to achieve them will be the key to organizational and management success. After all, a more diverse organization is a better organization. Thinking it over. 1. Why was it important for Best Buy to evaluate and overhaul its recruiting and hiring procedures to improve equality and inclusion in its workforce? 2. Why is mentorship an important part of ensuring diversity? 3. How will the tech centers help Best Buy reach its long-term objectives to improve equality and inclusion? Page 195. Notes. Chapter 8. Structuring Organizations for Today's Challenges. Page 196.